to talk about training this morning. And I've noticed for the last several years, it seems like there are a sizable turnout for the seminars at Surfaces and all of the meetings that I go to. People are big on the seminars, the training that they get.
Sure, a lot of people are capitalizing on that.
And I think there's a little bit of guilt when they get back that they don't follow through on that. Brian Gracon's with us this morning from Brian Gracon Associates, a professional trainer. And Brian, it's always great having you with us.
Thank you, Dave.
The conclusion I draw from attending some of these outings, Surfaces and others, is that, as I mentioned, retailers are hungry for training, to find the new ideas, to be able to execute those ideas in their operation. But from talking to them on the other side, when I interview them, I feel like sometimes there's a disconnect. What's your take on the need for new ideas and training, but what really happens in practice?
Sure. First of all, I think every retailer is interested in having quality skills and training for their staff. But when they go to these events like the International Surface event, they're not only hearing about new training ideas and new skill ideas, but also about social media strategies and how to find installers that are qualified and will represent your business well, and new marketing ideas, and on and on and on. So I think they leave with a lot of ideas, a lot of motivation, but also they already had a full-time job before they went there. So how are they going to get all this done? So I think the need is there, the interest is there. That's why attendance is so great at these kinds of shows. That's why you have the quality speakers you do, giving a lot of good ideas, but that's also why a lot of it doesn't happen afterwards. They just got a whole lot on their plate.
So they want to do it, they just don't know how to do it.
Yeah, and they're not sure how to actually execute some of these ideas. Okay, I've heard I should train my people in such and such an area. How do I actually do that? Where am I going to get the training from? Is it available to me free? Do I have to pay for it? Do I need custom training, or can I go somewhere and get training that other people are getting? There's a lot of questions, execution questions, that go through their mind. I think they don't know those answers.
Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of training available. I mean, the groups all have training, Mohawk, Carpet One, all of them.
Well, there's
adequate training.
Training available from many sources. I'll start very general, and then we'll get a little specific here. You can go to something like bizlibrary.com or lynda.com. That's bizlibrary.com, and Lynda is spelled L-Y-N-D-A. And there are quality, general-purpose business, sales, marketing courses available online, usually for a subscription fee for those services. You can do that. A lot of people do. You mentioned the groups, something like CCA Global, Flooring America, but also there's Mohawk University and Shaw Learning Academy, and folks like Invista provide training to their customers. And that's not all just product training. And much of that is award-winning caliber training. And it's industry specific because it's for flooring. You can go to those sources. Other groups have their own training programs as well. Then you have groups like the WFCA that make training available to their members, the Marble Institute of America on the stone side. The Floor Covering Leadership Council, which is a collaboration of industry groups, is developing a training portal to make training available and accessible. So there's lots of different places you can go for training. In fact, I've got some good news and bad news on one more piece of data. I looked at YouTube.com yesterday, and I typed in sales training. And there are 552,000 sales training videos on YouTube.com. The average length of those is about 10 minutes. If you watch them all, in 10 years you'd be done. And of course, none of it would be relevant anymore, because who knows what we're going to need 10 years from now. Yeah. So there's many different places you can go. A question I think people need to ask themselves when they do that, and I advise doing that, is where can I get custom training that gives me competitive advantage? If I'm in a market and 6 other dealers use the same training programs that I use, do I have competitive advantage? How can I get uniquely better skills than my competitors? Well, one of those sources is go to something like Surfaces. Listen to the speakers, make contact with the speakers. Maybe you want to bring those folks in afterwards to give you some custom services, or bring in people who are in the training field or the sales field for custom services for just your business. Then you can go even further than those other courses may take you.
Well, what about that? It's an interesting point that, yes, there's a lot of high-quality training available, but if your training is similar to the guy down the street, does that give you, Are you lacking a uniqueness that maybe you would be better if you had?
That's something to consider. I mean, it'll help you versus other categories. So selling flooring to the customer instead of her deciding to buy electronics or a new car. If you use that selling, even though other people have similar skills, flooring sales in the market may go up. But to go that extra step further, you may need some custom services. Your culture is different. Your background is different. Your people are different. Those kinds of things can help influence exactly what training will deliver the best return for you, and that's where custom services may be useful.
General business. I mean, we see a lot of people come into the floor covering industry, they were installers, perhaps. Mm-hmm. Or from another, they were a mill rep or something.
Right.
Where they don't necessarily have the general knowledge for running a business. That would seem to be an obvious place to go right off the bat.
Absolutely. Now, you may not have gotten into the business unless you've done those kinds of trainings and developed those kind of skills in advance. So it may be better to do that before you buy a business as part of your due diligence. But then you can go to those general sources or to industry sources for business training as well as product training. You know, training is much more than just PK. You know, the rep that comes in and brings donuts on a Tuesday morning sales meeting. Training is much more than that. There's training about marketing, about sales skills, about managing your business, about using social media strategies, you know, on and on and on. You need to figure out what's the right training for you and then go find quality training that will pay off a return.
Now, that's an interesting element, too. I ask a lot of retailers, do you have sales meetings? And they have product knowledge sales. They say, yes, we have product knowledge. Have a guy come in with the donuts, etc. Now, that points out the need. If you need marketing training, whatever training you need, there needs to be some way to dispense this to the people that will be actually delivering it, the salespeople, the other people.
Sure.
With almost anything that you do, it would seem to me. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where some of the larger organizations, either those online sources I mentioned or some of the Mohawk universities and Shaw Learning Academies, some of those sorts of things may help. Or, again, custom services to do it your way for competitive advantage. Those are all ways of dealing with that broader need because there's many more skills needed to run a profitable flooring business than just product knowledge.
Talk about custom. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people cringe when they hear that from a cost standpoint. Wow, that sounds great.
Sure.
I would really benefit from that, but wow, can I afford it? Talk about what's involved in a custom training environment at a given retail organization.
Sure, and I'll address the issue of cost right on. Custom training may cost you from hundreds to thousands of dollars. It's not free, it's not cheap. I understand that completely. Hundreds if it's something that's pretty well available and just needs to be tailored to your business. Thousands if it's something to be created for you. On the other hand, the real question in my mind is what might that be worth to your business if it's training that you were confident was going to pay off? I'll refer to a few cases I'm familiar with where people studied the effects of training. In one case, a dealer had sales go up 60% as a result of a custom training program. That's pretty substantial. We'd all like to see that. No matter how much our businesses are improving slowly after the recession, we'd like to see something larger than that. I know of another business, a multi-store operation, where after some training, their gross margins went up 3 points. On a multi-million-dollar business, that was worth a lot of money. I know of another case where dealers were guaranteed a $5,000 increase in profit if they went through the training program. And if they didn't see it in their gross profits, the trainer was going to write the check. Well, the trainer didn't have to write any checks because it was quality training. The dealer's profits went up much more than that $5,000. So the real key, I think, is how can you find training that's the right training for your business, your people, that you have confidence in is going to generate a return. Then you take people off the sales floor and go through that training as quickly as possible because it's going to pay off.
That would seem to be the $64,000 question. What training do I need? How do I know what I need?
Yeah, and I'll give you a short answer to that, and then I'll give you a long answer to that. The short answer is, what skills do your people need to better serve your customers and turn it into profitable sales? And then, what are the characteristics of training to achieve that? The slightly longer answer is an audit of your customers. What are their buying preferences? What are their needs? What are their communication preferences when you think social media strategies? Audit your customers to find out what skills your people need to have to serve those customers. Step 2 is you audit your staff. What skills do they have versus the necessary set of skills? When you find holes, that might be where you target your training. Third, you look at a question of hiring versus training. If you have a specific skill, you need somebody with great interior design capability, but you're not going to turn all your staff into interior designers. Maybe you go hire somebody with design experience. But if it's a general purpose skill, we need to know how to close better. I'm going to bring in a training program closing the way I want people to close. That's how you get started. That's your list. That's your target. Here's the training I need for my people. It's one of 4 key characteristics that I use to describe what's the right training and how to select the right training in advance. One of those characteristics is it the right training? And that's what I've just defined with those series of audits. Second question is, if it's similar training to what people have presented before, either from a vendor, a manufacturer, or custom, what results do people get from that training? You know, it doesn't do me any good as a retailer to sell product B instead of product A at the same margin, at the same ticket. Right? What I want is to increase my sales and my margins and my profits. And so have people seen results from the training? Most PK training is sell my product instead of somebody else's. Does that really improve your business? Or can you get bottom line results because of a training program? And that's one of the reasons you go beyond PK. So we've got what are the results from the training typically? Is it the right training for my people? Third category is it really training? What do I mean by that? Of course it's training, right? The guy brought donuts, he gave us some pamphlets, we talked for an hour. Actually, he talked, we listened for an hour. That's training. No, that's not training. Training is about skill development. And so quality training not only gives you information, but gives you a chance to apply that information, to practice using the information, so that when you leave, you have a new skill and you're practiced at it so you can use it with customers. The last thing we want to do is practice new skills on customers. Let's practice in the training setting, have confidence, and go forward. And then the last step, step number 4, is reinforcement. Does the training provide any tools you can use as the owner of the business, for example, to reinforce the training with your people? You know what they were trained to do, how they were trained to do it. You watch. If they do it, you congratulate them, say keep it up because it's generating results. If they don't, you know what to do to coach them to get the results and get them back on the right track. So those are the 4 key characteristics. Results, is it the right training? Is it really training? And reinforcement. Combine the audits, which gives you the list of targets for your training program. Those 4 characteristics talked about with the trainer beforehand. And now you've got the right training and you know it's going to deliver results. You've increased the confidence in results. Now you're generating those increases in margins or sales and revenues.